Okay, here we are, arthropods, part two. We just talked about how the exoskeleton is an exaptation. So first it was adapted and evolved for protection and movement, and then it was able to be used as a way to conserve water on land. So we're still talking about the subphylum Chelicerata, and one of the classes of chelicerates is Meristomata, which are the horseshoe crabs. And they're not a true crab, they're not crustaceans, they're a horseshoe crab. And there's only 4 living species of these. They can be pretty big, up to 60 centimeters. They're all marine, and they're dioecious. Remember that they make eggs and sperm in different bodies. And underneath it look like this. So when we do our lab on arthropods online, we will have pictures of arthropods and chelicerates too. And we have a horseshoe crab. So underneath that covering, they have these chelicerae. So remember, we have those claws that the spiders have too, which makes them chelicerates. So 2 body tagmata, a cephalothorax, and an abdomen, and the chelicerae, which makes them chelicerates, not crustaceans. Additionally, they have pedipalps like our spiders that help them move things towards their mouth. And then lots of walking legs under there too. So arachnida was one that you know probably pretty well. Spiders, mites, ticks, and scorpions. And the reason why we weren't letting you use these for your insect pod is they're not insects. They are arachnids. So these terrestrial arthropods are really efficient at excretion. They have internal gas exchange structures and then highly modified appendages. So not having 6 legs like our insects are going to, but they have 8 legs. They also have a lot more wax in the cuticle than other arachnids, and most of them are carnivorous. Okay. So digestion takes place partly outside the body. So they're going to inject or bathe prey in enzymes that start digesting the animal or digesting their prey before they actually consume it. And they suck up the pre-digested fluid from their prey. Their foregut has a cuticle on the inside, just like our other arthropods do, and their pharynx is sort of a pump that moves that liquid down into the stomach. In the midgut, they're going to have absorption and secretion of the enzymes. And the hindgut's also lined in cuticle, is mostly for water reabsorption. So we're seeing this similar pattern of gut differentiation of tasks along the gut. Okay, so water conservation is very important for all animals living on land. And how arachnids deal with this is by having something called Malpighian tubules. So these tubules are for waste concentration and excretion. And interestingly, their waste product is going to be either uric acid, like we've seen before in some other animals, or guanine. So they have the semi-solid waste product, and it's removed with very little water. So I'll just point out again that removed with very little water, this is really important for animals living on land. If you're living in the water, you can just pee out a bunch of water, you have more water to drink. But if you're living on land, you need to be able to concentrate your waste products somehow and get them out without a whole lot of water there. Okay, so for gas exchange, arachnids have something special called a book lung. So inside the cuticle covering is a bunch of cuticle-covered filaments that act as a countercurrent exchange mechanism. And so remember, the countercurrent exchange means that blood is going one direction and the air is going the other direction. And when these are countercurrent, you get more efficient gas exchange between the air and the blood, which is great for oxygenation. They have these things called trachea, which are going to be cuticle-lined tubes, and those are the openings then into the book lungs, okay? And the spiracles are the actual openings into these trachea, so the spaces that move air into and across the book lung. Okay, so arachnids have a pretty advanced nervous system. They've got a ventral nerve core and central fused ganglia. They have a very obvious head, so strong cephalization, and whole lots of sensory structures, right? So they have things sensing pressure and movement and chemoreceptors and vibration, really advanced eyes in a lot of cases. And a lot of these organisms, most of them are going to be dioecious, and they're going to transfer sperm packets from one animal to the one that's making the eggs. A lot of them have really advanced courtship rituals and even parental care, okay? And so for arachnids, they're going to have direct development, meaning that what hatches out of the egg is going to be a small version of the adult, okay? So I said lots of arachnids show parental care. Here's a nice scorpion with the babies all on the back. Cool or gross, depending on how you want to think about it. But either way, very advanced parental care. Okay, so within arachnids, there's also scorpions, okay? And scorpions are a little bit special because they have a fused prosoma carapace. So their carapace, this crunchy exterior layer here, is going to be fused even more. And the chelicerae are again anterior, so they're chelicerates. And they have really, really big pedipalps up there at the front too, okay? And then, as you probably know, most scorpions have a stinger. And a lot of scorpions are what's called ovoviviparous. And I'll show a slide showing what that is. Some of them actually are viviparous. Okay. So if you're oviparous, you're going to lay eggs. If you're viviparous, you're giving live birth. Okay. And so some scorpions actually give birth to live young. They don't lay eggs. Okay. And then there's some examples of ovoviviparity where the eggs are laid, but then they are either consumed or put into the skin of an animal, and then they hatch out afterwards. This is called a Suriname frog here, which is a great example of oviviparity. So the female is going to lay the eggs, and then the eggs are put onto her back, and the skin grows over the eggs, and they pop out later. So pretty cool. And that's true in some members of this group too, arachnids, where they have ovoviviparity. So spiders are also in subphylum Chelicerata. They're in class Arachnida, and they have prosoma with their chelicerae. Okay, they have fangs with poison glands on there, and their pedipalps are like legs, and they can have 6 to 8 eyes, so very advanced vision, and a slender pedicel that connects this prosoma and the opisthoma. So a nice little spot here that connects those two pieces. Okay. And they can have, as we know, spinnerets. So on this opisthoma, so on this abdomen back here, they are going to have spinnerets to spin their webs, if they spin webs, book lungs, trachea, and reproductive openings to get out those gametes. And they spin webs using silk from silk glands in those spinnerets. Very well developed vision. They can be pretty small to relatively large. Okay. And again, we'll watch some more videos of them on Wednesday when we have our lecture meeting. Okay, so our next subphylum is Crustacea. There's a lot of species, almost all aquatic, except for our pill bugs, right? So a lot of people ask about these things for the insect project, but they're not insects, they're actually crustaceans. So calcium carbonate secreting animals that they secrete that calcium carbonate right into the exoskeleton. So right into the outsides, makes them extra crunchy. And there are 2 terrestrial / aquatic orders. Okay, so you've got isopods, like the pill bug, where all the legs are similar. And then if you go to the beach, you see these beach hoppers, amphipods that have these modified legs. So these are going to be 2 of your orders of crustaceans. And 3 classes that I want you to be aware of are Malacostraca, which is going to be most of those amphipods and isopods, as well as crabs and shrimp. Maxillopoda, which is your barnacles and copepods, and Branchiopoda, which is brine shrimp. Okay, and so we will give you a dissection video then of dissection of a crayfish, because they have some pretty nice dissections of those. And in most crustaceans, you're going to find a head, several pairs of antennae. Okay, so 2 pairs of antennae, a mandible for chewing, and 2 maxillas. So 1 for food handling and the other for food handling and gills. Okay, so you have all these different specialized structures, right? And so in general, we're going to have a cephalothorax, an abdomen, and a carapace on top of that cephalothorax. And then I have all these different modified legs in the bottom. So some walking legs, some swimming legs, and all these areas in order to do multiple mobile types. A lot of stuff up front, maxillipeds and periopods for walking and for food handling. So there's a lot of modified legs for special tasks. Okay, our circulatory system has a true heart here with a dorsal artery and a blood sinus, so incomplete circulatory system. Digestive tract has a typical mouth, stomach, intestine, anus. And it's a straight tube, but there is specialization, especially in the midgut. And we see a similar nervous system to CME4, right? So fusion of ganglia, big old giant neurons, eyes, chemotactile proprioception. Our gas exchange, we see gills in these guys with different respiratory pigments. And for excretion, they're going to use a whole bunch of different glands, including antennal glands and green glands. And they're going to excrete ammonia out of those as their nitrate waste. Okay, so everybody but barnacles are dioecious in crustaceans. And the sperm is typically deposited just after the female molts. So the female is going to molt and then be soft, and then is going to deposit the sperm. Crustaceans are going to have direct development in lots of cases. Okay. Some of them are going to have larval development, and these are actually called crab larvae, these zoea. You can find lots of really, really cute different larval types in these crustaceans. Okay. So barnacles, which you will either see at Half Moon Bay or you will see in your virtual tour of Half Moon Bay, are crustaceans, and these are monoecious. So we actually have mutual exchange of sperm. And barnacles are known for having the largest penis per body size of any animal. And so we'll watch a video where we see the penis actually coming out and extending out of the barnacle and then kind of tapping on the next door neighbors in order to transfer sperm. So pretty cool. Okay. Copepods, which make up a whole lot of food sources for a lot of marine animals, are going to be really teeny, very abundant, and ecologically very important. So these are going to be your primary consumers and grazers in the ocean, and they're going to be a food source for a lot of marine food chains. So copepod health is a really important indicator of marine health. Okay, subphylum Myriapoda, we've got 10,000 species of millipedes and centipedes, and they got 2-body tagma, head and trunk. Centipedes are carnivorous, but millipedes are herbivorous or eating decaying plant matter. So the centipedes are the ones to be scared of if you're going to be scared of anything. They have uniramous appendages. Remember, our biramous appendages were the ones that had two branches, and now we have single-branched appendages, and they have lots of them, right? That's all I'm going to say about Myriapoda, but there's a lot more because centipedes and millipedes are pretty cool. Okay. Subphylum Hexapoda, a really famous one. This includes class Insecta, which you have been doing your projects on. And we've got 3 tagmata here, a head, a thorax, and abdomen, 1 pair of antennae, 5 pairs of head appendages, 3 pairs of thoracic appendages, so 6 legs. And these actually are the only invertebrate that can fly. So if you think about it, the only things that are flying around that are invertebrates are going to be insects. So this is one reason why they're thought to have the most successful land animal, both in numbers of animals themselves and the number of species. So huge, 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 very successful class. They've got a head, they've got mouth parts, they've got compound eyes with ocelli, right? We see the spiracles that we saw in other arthropods as well, and up to 10 or 11 abdominal segments, okay? Internally, you're going to have a mouth and a foregut, midgut, hindgut, a brain, and including Malpighian tubules, right? So you're going to have ventral nerve cord for the brain, and then Malpighian tubules for waste excretion. Dorsal aorta on the top, which is their heart. And that's all kind of the same as we've seen before. What I think is really interesting about insects is because they're the only flighted invertebrate, how they fly is going to be a little bit different. Something like a bat or a bird is going to use bones and muscles to fly. Insects have to have a different situation because they have to use the exoskeleton and muscles against the exoskeleton to fly. What they actually do is they actually move the muscles and they change their whole body shape to move the wings and flap up and down. So they have to use the muscles to move their entire exoskeleton, which changes the body shape, and that will then move the wings, which is really, really cool. So there's a fun little video showing how this works. See here where you have the whole body shape moving those wings up and down. Okay. Mouth part diversity is related to feeding mode. And so you see insects that have chewing mouth parts and sucking mouth parts. For gas exchange, they have a tracheal system with diffusion. And again, the trachea are the actual tubes. The spiracles are the openings to the tubes, okay? And those are all lined with chitin. And no cell is more than 2 to 3 microns from a tracheal. So movement's going to be in and out, and it's a diffusion-based lung system. Okay. Circulation is similar to other arthropods, similar. We've got Malpighian tubules again with uric acid as a nitrogenous waste product, which is energetically costly to make, but does reduce water loss. Okay. For reproduction, most insects are going to be dioecious with internal fertilization. So you see actual copulation between males and females. Okay. And this ends up with that whenever you have internal fertilization in any animal, you end up with pretty complex mating rituals because you have access to matings. So these mating rituals are going to include chemical, auditory, and visual cues. Okay. And another major component of insects is that they have different juvenile lifestyles. So you might have what's called a hemimetabolous system, where the juvenile takes on the adult form gradually through a series of molts. So like here we are, this adult cinch bug, start with an egg, and it hatches into this nymph, and then the nymphs get bigger and bigger as it molts. Or a holometabolous system, where one molts that completely reorganizes the body. So like a housefly, the larvae are going to turn into a pupa, and then out hatches the adult fly. So that's hemimetabolous versus holometabolous. Okay, and that's all for arthropods. I will see you all on, well, tomorrow for lab, and then Wednesday for lecture.